Imagine discovering that the one person you finally started rebuilding a relationship with might be slowly losing his memories forever. A father, a daughter, a second chance at family, and suddenly, all of it is hanging by a thread. Today we're diving deep into Sullivan's Crossing Season 2, Episodes 1 through 5, a story filled with emotional secrets, heartbreaking revelations, romance, betrayal, and a storm that changes everything. And trust me, what begins as a medical scare soon uncovers hidden truths that have been buried for years. Let's begin. The story picks up immediately after the dramatic finale of Season 1. Harry Sullivan has collapsed. The rugged owner of Sullivan's Crossing, a man known for surviving life's toughest challenges, is rushed to the hospital. As news spreads through town, Maggie Sullivan races to his bedside. For Maggie, this isn't just any emergency. After spending years apart from her father, she has only recently started rebuilding their fractured relationship. Now she fears she may lose him all over again. At the hospital, doctors run a series of scans. At first, there seems to be good news. No blood clot, no stroke, nothing immediately life-threatening. But the relief doesn't last long. Dr. Rabney notices something troubling. Sully is confused, forgetful, agitated. The symptoms point towards something much darker, something that terrifies Maggie, the possibility of Alzheimer's disease. When Maggie hears this, her world stops, not only because she's a neurosurgeon who understands exactly how devastating the disease can be, but because Sully's own father suffered from it, and now history may be repeating itself. As Sully learns what doctors suspect, fear takes over. For the first time, viewers see the tough old outdoorsman completely shaken. The thought of losing his memories, his independence, his identity, it terrifies him. But while everyone else starts accepting the diagnosis, Maggie isn't convinced. Something doesn't feel right, and that feeling becomes stronger with every passing day. Meanwhile, another emotional storm is brewing. Cal Jones returns to town. After leaving Sullivan's Crossing at the end of Season 1, Cal hopes to reconnect with Maggie, but things don't go the way he expected. Maggie barely speaks to him. She seems cold, distant, and Cal has no idea why. What he doesn't know is that Maggie believes he abandoned her without explanation. Months earlier, Cal had written her a heartfelt letter explaining why he left, but Maggie never received it. The letter disappeared before it could reach her. And because of that missing letter, both of them are carrying completely different versions of the same story. Neither realizes the misunderstanding that is slowly destroying their relationship. But that mystery will become important later. Back at the crossing, Edna and Frank prepare for Sully's return home. Yet beneath their concern lies frustration. They can't understand why Sully kept so many things hidden. His health, his finances, his struggles. The more they learn, the more questions they have. And soon another problem emerges. Sully is becoming increasingly restless. The closer he gets to leaving the hospital, the more agitated he becomes. Even Sully notices it. He begins wondering if the doctors are right. Could he really be losing his mind? Could his memories already be slipping away? At the same time, Maggie finds herself caught between two worlds. Boston is waiting. A prestigious medical career is waiting. Her future seems mapped out. But her father needs her, and deep down she doesn't want to leave. Then something unexpected happens. While searching for Sully's belongings, Maggie discovers something shocking. A collection of Alcoholics Anonymous sobriety chips. She freezes, because nobody ever told her this part of Sully's story. Nobody told her her father had struggled with alcoholism. Suddenly, pieces of the puzzle begin falling into place. Questions she never thought to ask now demand answers. Why did Sully hide this? How bad was it? And could it somehow be connected to what's happening now? Desperate for answers, Maggie contacts her mother, Peebee. What she learns changes everything. Peebee confirms the truth. Years ago, after their marriage fell apart, Sully spiraled into alcohol abuse, a battle he fought largely alone, a battle Maggie never knew existed. And now, for the first time, Maggie begins questioning the Alzheimer's diagnosis, because something about Sully's symptoms reminds her of another condition entirely, one that many doctors often miss, one connected directly to long-term alcohol abuse. Meanwhile, life around Sullivan's Crossing continues moving forward. Sydney struggles with her future. Rob struggles with raising Finn. Rafe continues growing closer to Sydney, and Cal finds himself unable to stop thinking about Maggie. But no matter what anyone else is dealing with, everything is about to be overshadowed by a discovery that changes the entire season. Because Maggie is about to uncover the truth behind Sully's condition. And once she does,
Nothing will ever be the same again. But what happens next changes everything. Not only for Sully, not only for Maggie, but for everyone at Sullivan's Crossing. And the answer arrives in the middle of a hurricane. To understand how that happens, we need to follow Sully and Frank into a storm that neither of them is prepared for.
Before the storm arrives, Maggie finally finds the missing piece of the puzzle. After studying Sully's symptoms, reviewing his test results, and uncovering his history of alcoholism, she realizes something the other doctors have missed. This may not be Alzheimer's at all. The symptoms look similar: the memory loss, the confusion, the personality changes, the agitation. But Maggie notices something else. Sully's liver enzymes are elevated, his nutrition levels are dangerously low, and one particular deficiency stands out: vitamin B1. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. Maggie believes Sully is suffering from Wernicke's encephalopathy, a serious neurological condition often caused by long-term alcohol abuse and severe vitamin deficiency. Unlike Alzheimer's, this condition can actually be treated, which means Sully may not be losing his mind after all. But before she can fully explain her theory, everything spirals out of control, because Frank decides he's had enough of the hospital. Watching Sully being poked, tested, medicated, and treated like a patient instead of a person becomes too much for him. So Frank does something nobody expects. He helps Sully escape. Yes, he literally breaks him out of the hospital. While hospital staff are distracted, Frank activates a fire alarm using burning sweetgrass. The chaos gives him the perfect opportunity. Within minutes, Sully is rolling out of the hospital in a wheelchair, and before anyone realizes what's happening, they're gone. When Maggie discovers Sully has disappeared, panic immediately sets in. She knows he needs treatment. Without it, his condition could become far worse. But finding him won't be easy, because Frank and Sully are already heading deep into the wilderness. At first, the two men treat the adventure like an old-fashioned fishing trip. For a brief moment, Sully seems happy, free from doctors, free from tests, free from frightening diagnoses. But there is one problem. A massive hurricane is approaching Nova Scotia, and neither of them takes the warning seriously. Back at Sullivan's Crossing, emergency preparations begin. The weather forecast grows more alarming by the hour. Campers are evacuated, buildings are reinforced, supplies are gathered. Everyone prepares for the worst. Everyone except Sully and Frank. Meanwhile, Maggie and Cal work together to warn campers about the incoming storm. And for the first time since Cal returned to town, they're forced to spend real time together. The tension between them remains. The hurt, the confusion, the unresolved feelings. But beneath all of it, the connection is still there. Neither can ignore it, especially Cal, because despite everything, he still cares deeply about Maggie. And the more time they spend together, the harder it becomes to hide. Then another emotional bombshell drops. During the hurricane preparations, Maggie finally tells Andrew about Sully's real condition. Andrew immediately urges her to come back to Boston, to leave the chaos behind, to return to the life she had built. But Maggie refuses. For perhaps the first time, she chooses Sullivan's Crossing over Boston. And that decision says more than she realizes. Because every day she stays, her roots grow deeper. As winds intensify and rain begins hammering the town, Sully and Frank take shelter inside a remote cabin. At first, they believe they'll simply wait out the storm. But nature has other plans. The hurricane rapidly strengthens. Roads become impassable. Communications fail. Power disappears. And suddenly they are completely trapped. Inside the cabin, something remarkable begins to happen. With nowhere left to run, Sully is finally forced to confront the truth he's been avoiding. Not about his illness, about his past. A past haunted by guilt. A guilt so heavy he's carried it for years. As the storm rages outside, Sully makes a confession that changes everything. Years ago, he was the one who hit Lola with his truck, the same accident that nearly destroyed our life, the same accident that left physical and emotional scars, the same mystery that has haunted Sullivan's Crossing for years. Sully reveals that he had been drinking. He hit Lola, and because nobody realized he was intoxicated, the accident was ruled a hit and run. For years, he secretly tried to make up for what he'd done, helping Lola, supporting her, looking after her. Not because he was simply kind, because he was carrying crushing guilt. Frank is stunned, heartbroken, yet he listens quietly, because he understands that Sully has been punishing himself every single day since it happened. But no one expects what happens next. Back at the outpost, the hurricane reaches full force. Trees collapse, power lines fail, the entire community is pushed to its limits. And then disaster strikes. One of the campers, Pete, suffers a severe PTSD episode. Disoriented and terrified, he wanders into the storm.
Maggie immediately goes after him, alone. It's a dangerous decision, but Maggie refuses to abandon someone in need. As rain lashes the forest and visibility disappears, she searches desperately. And then everything goes wrong. Maggie is injured. She falls, hits her head, and loses consciousness. For a terrifying moment, nobody knows where she is. Nobody knows if she's alive. Then, through the darkness and chaos, Cal finds her, unconscious, motionless, lying in the storm. Without hesitation, he lifts her into his arms and carries her back to safety. And in that moment, every wall between them begins to crumble. As Maggie recovers inside the cabin, Cal stays by her side, all night, refusing to let her sleep because of the concussion. They talk about life, about fear, about regret, about choices. For the first time, neither is hiding. The conversation becomes deeply personal. Maggie admits she has spent most of her life trying to control everything. Cal admits he no longer believes life can be controlled at all. Sometimes, he says, all you can do is focus on your next step. Outside, the storm continues raging. Inside, something even more powerful is happening. The connection they've both tried to resist is finally impossible to ignore. And then, it happens. Cal leans closer. Maggie doesn't pull away. Years of longing, weeks of misunderstandings, countless unspoken feelings. Everything finally explodes into one unforgettable moment. They kiss. A real kiss. Not friendship, not confusion, not possibility. Something undeniable. For a brief moment, the world outside disappears. The storm vanishes. The fear vanishes. It's just Maggie and Cal, finally giving in to what has been building since season 1. But this isn't a fairy tale, because even as sparks fly between them, a devastating secret is waiting. A secret Maggie hasn't revealed. A secret that could destroy everything before it even begins. Because Maggie is pregnant. And Cal still doesn't know. But the biggest shock of all is still coming. The hurricane will eventually end. Sully will return. And the truth about his condition will finally be revealed. A truth that changes the future of Sullivan's Crossing forever.
After surviving the hurricane, everyone finally returns to Sullivan's Crossing. But the emotional storms are far from over. Maggie confirms that Sully does not have Alzheimer's disease. Instead, he is suffering from Wernicke's encephalopathy, a condition caused by alcohol abuse and a severe vitamin B1 deficiency. The diagnosis brings enormous relief, but it also forces Sully to confront a painful truth. His years of drinking have caught up with him. At the same time, Maggie and Sully begin repairing the damage that years of separation created between them. Sully admits he never stopped loving her, and Maggie decides to give their relationship a fresh start. Meanwhile, Cal and Maggie's romance seems ready to bloom after their hurricane kiss. But then, everything changes. During a romantic dinner, Maggie asks Cal a simple question. "Do you want children?" Cal immediately answers, "No." The response hits Maggie hard because she is secretly pregnant with Andrew's baby. Suddenly, the future she imagined with Cal feels impossible. As if that wasn't enough, another disaster strikes. Sully discovers that Sullivan's Crossing campground is facing foreclosure. Years of financial struggles, missed payments, and personal problems have pushed the beloved campground to the edge of collapse. A bank official gives Sully a brutal deadline: pay the debt within 2 weeks or lose everything. The place that has been home to generations may soon be sold at auction. And just when Sully thinks things can't get worse, Phoebe unexpectedly arrives, setting the stage for even more family drama. With the auction deadline approaching, the entire community rallies around Sully. Cal and Lola search for legal solutions. Maggie tries to find financial help. Edna and Frank refuse to give up on the place they consider home. But saving the crossing won't be easy. Meanwhile, Maggie receives life-changing news when she hears her baby's heartbeat for the first time. The moment is emotional and overwhelming. For the first time, the reality of becoming a mother truly sinks in. Sydney also faces a crossroads. She decides to return to New York and restart her modeling career, leaving Rafe heartbroken. Their relationship begins falling apart as Rafe realizes she may never fully commit to staying. Back at the crossing, Cal finally opens his heart completely and confesses his feelings to Maggie. He tells her he wants a real chance with her, but Maggie rejects him. Not because she doesn't love him, because she believes their futures are incompatible. She knows he doesn't want children, and she refuses to build a relationship she believes is doomed from the start. Heartbroken, Cal watches her walk away. Meanwhile, Sully desperately searches for investors and eventually approaches Glenn Perry with a partnership proposal. Frank immediately warns him not to trust Perry, fearing the deal could create even bigger problems.